So this is usually part of the intro where we say something funny to kind of give you some context on what this video is about. But instead, I am here to say thank you. Seriously, over 250 downloads on our podcast and 1,000 views on each of our shorts. That's just crazy, man.
Every like, every subscription, every download, and every comment is very valuable to us. We thank you for the engagement, and we look forward to more. And now, on to the episode. Welcome to Pixelaged, where every memory is a save point.
This is the podcast where we look at how gaming used to feel, how it feels now, and what changed along the way. I'm Will.
And I'm Bryan. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that may cause an emotional response. I just want to say that up front. We're talking about AAA studios versus indie studios, not versus in some sort of competitive attack scenario. We're just going to break it down. But first, a little history on this, specifically the term indie. When we think about independent studios and we think about what that means, we did a little check into where the term came from and where it first started. And there's no official first indie studio or indie style game. Back in the 70s and 80s, there were so many hobbyists that were creating games on their personal computer that the term indie game really didn't start until the early 2000s, really. And that background, that history really is at the core of what gaming is. And I think what you and I both would agree we love is that there is this creative, artistic core of creating video games that back then, that was everybody. Everybody was doing it. There wasn't these massive studios. I mean, Atari was there and they became large, and then Nintendo. But when you think about what the term really means, what is it defined as? And it has to do with a few factors. Number one, it has to do with the size of the organization, right? What is this team size you have to build this game? 1 person, 10 people, whatever that may be, versus a major publisher who will have thousands of employees. You also have creative freedom factors where you don't have a lot of checks and balances. You're just making your game and it's going to be whatever you want it to be. And then the other is also the distribution. So things like Steam have made this much better now, much easier now for independent developers and independent studios. But that gives you a little history about independent gaming. So when I think about the term, though, I seem to recall when I was younger recognizing that Atari even had a whole slew of games, but there were ones that came from and this sounds awful, by the way. This is Gen X through and through when I say this. We called them knockoff games, right? We were like, ugh, this isn't Atari. Ugh, we're so ridiculous. But anyway, but that reality is we looked at that. But what about you? Did you really think about that term, or did it mean anything if you would have heard it then?
I mean, no. I was just playing games, and when I'm the youngest of 9, so I just had what we had, and the fact that we even had video games when we had that many kids was a shock to me.
That's a good point.
I'm not complaining, but yeah, I was just playing Mario Brothers or all the mainstream Nintendo games. We did have a Sega Genesis, so I was playing Sonic and stuff like that, but it never occurred to me who the development teams were, who worked on this. I was just enjoying a game, and that's kind of is still true today. I take things at face value. I don't super research the developers and everyone that's doing stuff and their entire life story. I just take things at face value personally. I'm more aware of it now, especially as I'm learning and doing this podcast with you. But as a kid, I was just playing games, man.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's the ignorance is bliss factor that we both enjoyed, growing up. nostalgic side, I don't think back to my gaming experience to go, well, I was so glad I got to play the top of the line games from so and so studio. I just said this game was an amazing game and I
Right.
loved it. Right. So, yeah, that's a really good point too. Your view, the way you looked at it, saying I was just grateful to have the games growing up. I
Hmm.
think that is such a great perspective. And I do agree with that, knowing how I grew up. It wasn't rich. We grew up, you know what I mean? It was what it was. You played what you had, and I valued those and still do to this day, irrespective of who made the game, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm surprised that there's no documented first game, but I was trying to reach back and think. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know, Super Meat Boy, Shovel Knight. I can't think of.
Well, those are modern games too, right? That got
Right,
that
right.
tagline. So,
Yeah, no, it's surprising that Wikipedia is saying there's no known first person. Maybe it's just like we don't know studio sizes based on games or something along those lines. But
yeah, right,
um
right.
there are so many indie games, and yeah, we can't super go into depth, obviously, based on what we said on what it was like when we were younger, because
Mm,
you and I were just playing games and enjoying it.
that's
But I
it.
feel like we can really deep into the what's it like now. And I will
Oh,
say,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
what's it like now? Indie games are incredible.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and I feel like maybe when they first started coming out, people had this negative context because
Mm,
I feel like there were some indie games on phones and people didn't like phones, at least in the West. People generally were against
right.
gaming on phones when they first came out. And
Fair.
now, we had some smaller games, and then you had big, huge, beautiful games that are winning Game of
Mm,
the Year and stuff like that. Like Hollow Knight, Silk Song was nominated, didn't win,
mm,
but it lost to another game that was considered an indie game.
mm-hmm.
So it's
That's
just,
true.
yeah, it's kind of crazy where it's at now for sure.
I totally agree. And the perception of the indie studio has changed. I
Hmm.
know that there's been years and years of these games coming out that come from these small outfits, and the reaction, at least initially, was shock and surprise that they were so good. And that wasn't a slight on those studios. It was
Right.
the budget, it was the team size, it was everything we just talked about. Now, the expectation has shifted. When a studio like Warhorse can come out with Kingdom Come Deliverance, when studios will bring out games and you find out it's one or two people,
Hmm.
it's not as much a shock as it is a really, I would say it's encouraging to now. For me now, what it's like is encouraging because I love to see that artistic side. And it brings me back to maybe that core feeling when we were younger. This game comes out, you try it, and you say to yourself, this is great. You didn't necessarily think about who made it, but now as you're older and you understand, especially since we're both in IT, we really understand what goes into software dev. And so when you
Yeah.
see a small group of people do something amazing, for me now, I'm just impressed. I'm just
Oh,
like so grateful. You know what I mean? It's like this is so good. And yeah, there's no comparison necessarily. It's just recognizing I appreciate this more than
mhm.
maybe a studio that's got thousands of people.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, what's it like now? You go on Steam, there are always, there's the sales,
Mm,
typically speaking, but
yeah,
then there's Next Fest, and there's all these Steam events where they have demos of upcoming
right,
games. And a
right.
lot of them, I would say even more of a majority of them,
Mm,
are indie games that
it's true.
are very specific. And Peak, for example, came out of nowhere and people
Yeah,
love it. It's hilarious.
it's an amazing game.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it brings. What did we play that game you and I played that we laughed so hard we cried? What's the Scrap Mechanic?
Scrap
Right.
Mechanic, correct? Yeah,
That's the same kind of feel where
right.
this is so fun and so raw. Yes, agreed. And interesting point about Steam too. You're right. There is a lot more that's indie than ever. And
Correct.
now you have so many options. I love it. I'm a huge fan. Yes.
Yeah, and especially because these big AAA studios that then joke and are like, "Oh, we're quadruple A studios," blah blah. Anyway, they
Quadruple A.
yeah, they
I'm Octo A, right? At some point,
whatever.
it's yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's ridiculous, and they're
Yeah.
making fun of each other and whatnot. But they, I feel like they try to make one step up over everything.
Hmm.
Like, how do we make a bigger open world, a better open world, make it feel more alive, make it feel
Right.
worth sinking all of your time into. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
indie games typically just ask a specific question and
Mm-hmm.
stick to that question. Like, let's make a game about climbing a mountain.
Right.
Okay, how can we make that fun?
Right.
Or let's make a game where you're an octodad. And what kind of challenges would you have as an
I
octopus that's
forgot
a
about
dad?
that. That's
Like,
right. Or I am fish.
yeah,
Or I am toast. I mean, they're
right,
just yeah.
right. Oh
Oh
god, it's
man.
just really really funny, and you on paper you hear it and you think that's silly. Why
Hmm.
would I buy into that? And then you see it and you're just like, oh man, I would laugh my head off if I play this game. I need to buy this game and start playing it right now.
Yes. Exactly. And I do believe that the expectation is shifting where we're not necessarily becoming numb. We're actually more encouraged by what's
Right,
happening. Where what happens with AAA, at least for my own experience, is that growing up, you start seeing these games, your expectations shift to, look, you got thousands, millions of dollars, your game better be good, right?
right.
Because you have that bar, you have that baseline. But then it comes out and it's buggy, and you're like, okay, this is really not that great.
Hmm.
Whereas the indie studio comes out, produces a game, and it's clean.
Right,
It doesn't have to be gigantic, like you said, but it works and it does it well, and you laugh and you enjoy it. I think about Among Us.
hmm,
I
correct.
think
Yeah, yeah.
about those kind of, they're just something unique to them that I love. And even though the games are larger, and Expedition 33, huge game, independent
Right.
studio. And I know there's some discrepancy whether they want to call it indie because of some investments or not. But either way, if we just take the scope of the size of the game, you have that basically, you have that entire length along the line of what the game could be, how big it could be. With
Right.
indie studios, you have more flexibility.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's. I mean, I'm sure you create a game, people can choose they want to sink an unhealthy amount of time into that game. That's up to the player, right?
Right,
But
right.
I think to your point that the AAA studios are trying to go for these games that you're playing for hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I feel like a lot of things get lost in the way sometimes
mm-hmm,
and lost
mm-hmm.
in translation, or it's not fully fleshed out and then they have to
Right,
patch it later and what have you.
right.
Whereas the indie game is a complete game that is focused on this one specific thing. And even though Among Us, to your point, wasn't necessarily planned to be this game that someone has played for thousands of hours, the amount of community events and everything else.
I mean, huge, yeah.
Right, right. And there are mods for that game where it's instead of
Mm-hmm,
8 people, it's 64 people. Now there's all these
mm-hmm.
different roles and they all have different, it's so
It's
funny.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
correct.
that change, that shift,
Hmm.
I really believe centered around expectations as well. Where you and I can think back to games as they would come out, Super Nintendo, since that is a great merge point for you and I.
Right.
I was already a little older, but you were well into video games, so you weren't necessarily young. We just knew games well. We knew what we liked. The
Hmm.
games would come out, and I can't say that I remember a lot of games being garbage. There were some games I just didn't like, but I didn't put in a cartridge, right? And it was bad. It was
Right.
buggy. It didn't work.
Right.
No, it had to work. Otherwise, you couldn't release it. And I think the change started to happen when we started recognizing, wait a minute, I just played this game by a small outfit. Nothing wrong with it. And it's so much fun. You, AAA, quadruple A, whatever studio,
Yeah,
have come out with
exactly.
this game, and I have to wait another week for you to patch the problems. That certainly is a significant reason why the change started to occur.
Right. I mean, another reason too, and it might touch on what you were saying, but I feel like we just keep hearing all these stories of how AAA studios, these games are failing to meet expectations. And
Mm,
it's not
mm.
the gamer's expectation typically. It's the stockholders' expectations.
Right,
I mean, I
right.
just saw an article about how Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, talk
Mm-hmm.
about backlog. I haven't beaten it, I know. But
That's all right.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth failed to meet expectations by Square Enix.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's one of the reasons why people shifted to indie, is because
Mm-hmm.
with indie games, it's about the game, and the only expectation by the developers and the stockholders, whatever, is
Mm-hmm.
the 2, 3, or 4 people building it, and they say, yes, this is the game we wanted to create, and that's it. It's not about stockholders, it's not about any
Mm-hmm.
of this other stuff. It is about, we wanted to create a game, we had this vision, it is now created, and we're going
Yeah,
to add to it or we're not going to add to it, and that's essentially how it goes. And I
yeah.
love that, because, and that's why I feel like we're having this big shift recently,
Mm-hmm.
where indie games are being more popular, are being more received well, because they're completed games, they're not a
Yeah.
mess. We're not having our Concord, which is
Mm-hmm.
this millions upon $1 million game that dies immediately. We're
Mm-hmm.
having these games where someone just asks a simple question: what if I was
Mm-hmm.
knocked dead? And they create
Yep.
it, and it
Right.
sells.
I agree. There is a level of commitment that exists in those smaller outfits that is centered around, I want to bring something to my friends, to gamers, that they can just love. And that's why the passion project terminology, right? That
Mm-hmm.
phrase means something. And we're not going to sit here, you and I, and pretend like we're not aware of the realities of cost of doing business, of creating a video game. It can be very expensive, it's a lot of time. Yet the same heart, the same love for what you're building shows through in those indie games a lot more.
Correct.
You can feel it. You can
Well,
tell there's a soul to it, where they did this because they just love the idea of what they built, right?
mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you think about it too, thinking from the developer standpoint, right? Like, you and
Mm-hmm.
I have jobs and we
Mm-hmm.
work in IT.
Mm-hmm.
And there are days where, after Christmas Day, you have to go back in on the 26th, and
Mm-hmm.
and you're just had the holidays and you don't really want to work. It's kind of like, I'll do the job, I'll show up and I'll
Right.
be there. But your
Right.
mind's not really there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with an indie game developer, half the
Right.
time, I can say that with certainty, but a lot of the time, people have quit their jobs and they're spending two,
Yeah,
3, 4 years to make this game, and it is their livelihood.
it
It
is.
will be their livelihood. So there is a
It is.
different mindset.
Oh, yeah. And I'm full in total support of that. I believe that that is, in essence, what makes gaming really valuable, still to me. And that may sound sentimental for a Gen Xer. That's fine. Don't worry. There's no tears. There's no tears. But the
He's incapable
reality,
of them. It's fine.
the reality is, when I see that, when I hear that, I'm immediately ready to support that without even hesitation. Even if I don't ever play the game, I will buy it just to support that individual group or person.
Right.
Because if that ever dies, which I hope it never does, and I don't think it ever will, but if that ever dies, then what happens is that we see a creativity desert effect. We start going into starve mode, and we're just
Right.
going to take whatever we're given. And I am going to bring something up that I know is, from a change perspective, what we've seen recently over the last few years is both a influx in great indie games, no doubt. You said it exactly right. We've
Right.
also seen an increase in slop, AI specifically.
Well,
And these are quote unquote independent studios, because it's one or two people creating something with AI and shoving it out there
mm-hmm.
on your mobile games, or even on, I see it on the Switch, the Nintendo eShop. There's hundreds of these games that are just, I'm sorry. If you're a real dev team, a real developer, and you're producing a passion project, and it's not aesthetically amazing as compared to other things, but you are in it, you love it, and you're creating something good, I love that. Friends like that are awesome because their heart's in it. However, if you're a person or a group or a company who's just producing this as they can get a quick buck from these mobile addicts or something, now that's garbage. Sorry. That's very opinionated, but it hurts the market. It hurts the gaming, I would say, the gaming atmosphere of the current industry, because you just see it. And I think that change has happened because of that. Because of AI, especially, is pretty guilty there. So,
I mean, you can typically look at the pictures, the photos, description of the game, what have you, and you can know if their heart's in it or not. I mean, it's just apparent. And like we talked about in the AI episodes, you can see all these new games where it's just, oh man, that looks like Final Fantasy 14. That looks like Power World. That looks like, and it's just, again, they're coming out so fast that the developers can't keep up with it. So it's just, yeah, it's AI, as we talked about in that episode, is a great assistant. It's not what you should rely on for your whole everything, because you're just going to have not a soulful game from that standpoint.
I think exactly right. Exactly. And that's why indie studios have that soul to their game. They really do.
Right. So when we think of all this and we try to put it into context, how did this affect us as gamers? And I would say, for me, I think it's affecting me by the fact that a lot of these games are playing on our nostalgia, hands down, without even question. Like Shovel Knight is playing an NES game, essentially. And it's Nintendo hard, like we've talked about multiple times. It is a very challenging game. I can't recall if I beat it or not. And then they came out with so many different versions and whatnot. I'm behind on that. But, and then, I feel like we're getting a lot of emotional tied games too that AAA games wouldn't necessarily want to touch on, because it's not gonna make as many dollars as the next Call of Duty, say.
Right.
I mean, I'll pull up Steam. I'm thinking of this one game that I know made everyone cry. Spiritfarer, Farewell Edition.
Yeah.
I know that game received so many awards, and people are just, this game, you're not, if you play this game and you are not crying, you are ridiculous. Essentially is the mindset.
So what you're saying is I should not play the game. That's what you're saying.
I mean, you can play it, but if you don't cry or feel at least a tinge of emotion, you're a sociopath, is what I'm trying to say.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I empathize well. And I know we joke about this, my Gen X lack of emotional maturity, I guess. I don't know what term it is. You're a millennial. You tell me, what's the term? But, it's true that there are games where I am affected. And I know we've talked about this before, but indie studios do address or have the flexibility that AAAs don't. You're right. 100% true. And it affects us in a way, at least as a gamer, and from my perspective, not just I want to support them, like I mentioned, and do that. That's all good. But I look forward to it. I look forward to what's the next indie thing that's going to come out and prove, once again, you don't need a giant studio. However, I will say this. I'm also glad when AAA studios make a good game. Like I am encouraged by that. So the effect on me as a gamer is not to squish one side and only like the other. It's my expectations change. I literally feel like I could say to any AAA studio, you don't have an excuse. You don't.
Right.
You can't make garbage and try to pass it off.
It's true. I feel like AAA games get, as I mentioned earlier, they get lost, and then there are some that are, trying to push an agenda or something else.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, and especially thinking about how this affects us as gamers. I mean, it is just fun. It's fun. Like a lot of these games will give you complex mechanics that are, trying to stand out because, this game has complex mechanics or complex controls, or it's trying to do something slightly different. Whereas the indie game is just, again, face value. You don't need to look deeper, kind of a thing.
That's true. And that basically draws you in. It draws you closer, because you say, this isn't just unique for the sake of being unique. Like you said, this isn't complex just for that sake. it's part of what they wanted you to experience. And to walk away affecting me as a gamer that way, it's gonna say a lot about what passion and what heart they as the developers put into it, because you will make the connection. And dare I say this too,
Oh,
that
here we go.
our no, this is hey, this is a Bryan gets sensitive moment, so just go with it, all right? Okay. Is the same heart that you and I felt about doing this podcast. We didn't come into here at any point saying we're going to do this because we want to be successful and make lots of money, and that was never the concept. This is 100% a passion project.
Right.
We said we love games, we love video games, we love connecting with friends, we love the social aspect of gaming, we love the creativity, we love the artwork. So if you're out there, you feel the same way, you will relate to us almost instantly. And when we started looking at the content and what we're putting together, we're revisiting it every day, all the time, because we do love it. That you can see that in a video game. You can
Right.
tell like they
Correct.
cared enough.
And I will say, unlike AAA, the edge that indie games have is indie games will, if you or I want to start a video game, they'll often say, hey, we have this video game concept. Here's what I
Right.
have thus far. And then they're
Mhm.
going to put it on Kickstarter to get some funding so they can actually
Yep.
complete the game. And we don't have that with AAA games. Like, we can't get a quick concept. Like, there'll be trailers and stuff like that, but the
Sure.
support aspect and the care as a
Mhm.
gamer of, oh man, this game sounds so cool, of course I'm going to
Mhm.
support you, and of course I'm going to give you the extra tier $250 so I can make
Right.
a weapons name description, or
Right.
have my name as a character name and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's different, and the amount of care that gamers have for indie games starting from the
Mhm.
ground up versus AAA is just, it's unparalleled.
Oh, it totally is. And you see the effect of this ripple effect where the community begins to grow
Mm-hmm.
because they want to be a part of something great. It's so encouraging. And I saw a streamer the other day. I don't know if you've ever watched him, Queso. He reminds me of I won't say his name because I don't want to say our buddy's name, but if you watch him, you know who I'm talking about. He is very funny. He actually reacts very well with his friends and his listeners, and it's really great. However, what I love is there's a lot of independent studios that'll make a video game and they'll put him in the game.
Oh,
They'll either
really?
animate him or put his face in some monitor somewhere. It's, to me, it's not just great to see that because it's
Mm-hmm.
funny. It's great to see it because somebody said, you know what? I love the Fat Queso. You supported what I was doing. And I love watching your stream or your show. I'm putting that in my game. That's awesome. And nobody gets weird. Nobody's
Right.
upset about it. Nobody's suing anybody. It's just
You
the
didn't pick
community.
me.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I love it. Love
I
it.
mean, wasn't there? It's Skyrim Grandma, right? Wasn't
Yeah.
she entered
Yeah.
in somewhere?
Yeah, Skyrim Grandma, they have. So what they do, to your point, what they'll do is if they recognize someone, and again, AAA studio, Bethesda, they'll recognize someone who has made an impact in the community and they'll put something in there. I've seen them do it in Final Fantasy 14, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they have like a funeral? Like a whole thing for somebody, right? If I'm remembering
You're
correctly.
thinking of yeah. So the guy that made Berserk, when he passed away,
Yeah.
they had a
Like
whole funeral service. Correct.
that's kind of cool. And that I think is something that all gaming studios can do to different degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool. It's really cool to see that. It's just that the smaller community or the independent studios with their maybe lesser reach still have great opportunity to do things like that. And it's just great. So
The moment you said funeral, my mind went to the funeral that happened in World of Warcraft, where for some reason they decided to do it in contested territories.
Yeah,
So it was just a giant war.
it was ridiculous. I never understood that either. And EverQuest, you could get marriaged. Wow.
Marriage. Wow.
Woo.
Coin that term.
Yeah. In EverQuest, you could get married and you could be in a zone, and it was the whole entire community. And I remember people doing it in the wrong spot, and the mobs would just destroy the entire wedding. And you're just like, wait, that's a hill giant right there. You're gonna, yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, all right, we're gonna take a short break. We'll be right back in just a moment. And we're back. And now it's time for a little segment we like to call What We're Playing. Specifically, we're going to ask Will, because this episode has been about independent studios, AAA studios, the differences, all the things that we've talked about today. However, we also want to maybe include that into what we're playing. And there's been a new game that came out recently from an independent studio, and Will picked it up. So let's hear what you have to say about it.
Before I get to that, we have an Adam alert, everybody. My cat Adam is on my lap. He needed attention, so now he's calming down. So if you're watching the video, you'll see a cat. So
and if you hear loud purring, it's not Will. Sometimes he purrs. Sometimes, but
man, what are you saying about me right now? You're saying weird things. But moving on, Slay the Spire 2. So I have not invested an insane amount of hours. I wish I have, but I will say Slay the Spire 2 is everything that I could ever hope for from the sequel, and more so because it gave me extra features I never thought of. So Slay the Spire, the original one, was very, very addicting. I've already spoke on that game, on how I had to stay up all night one night, so I just started playing Slay the Spire, and it felt like 15 minutes went by. So it is a very fun, addicting game. For the sequel specifically, the animations were improved. There's better quality of life. There's 2 new heroes that you get to play as. I don't necessarily love one of them, putting Adam down. One of them you can improve and make stronger and whatnot, but the feature that I never expected, and maybe they announced it forever ago and I just have not been in the loop, but they released multiplayer.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yes. And how that works is essentially, if you and I were to play, I pick one of the characters, you pick one of the characters. We are fighting the same monsters. So if they're going to do 12 damage, just doing 12 damage to both of us.
Okay.
But since we're both fighting the same monster, it has a lot more HP. Is how it works.
And we both go each turn. Is that correct then?
Yeah. Like it'll be the monster's turn and then the player's turn. And we can just, I don't have to wait for you. You don't have to wait for me. We're just doing our turns at the same time. And then when everybody hits, our turn is done. That's when the monsters will attack.
Okay.
But you still have to defend yourself. I still have to defend myself, so on and so forth, and prep for. And I believe the ruling is as long as one of the players survives, you move on to the next room.
That's cool. And continue playing. Cool. But you're saying, you said, sorry to interrupt you, but you said everything you expected and more. That's quite the statement.
It's just, not to say that Slay the Spire was bad to look at. I loved the original Slay the Spire, but the animations are improved.
Nice.
And my favorite character since the first one has been the Defect, which is a robot where you can essentially program what kind of orbs it has and what damage it does and so on.
Good
and so
flexibility
forth.
On that one. Yes.
Yeah, and I love the Defect. It's much improved in this version, I think. And
that's really cool.
It's a lot of fun, and I played it more, surprisingly. I think I played it more on my iPhone than I did on Steam or Switch or anything, just because it's always there, and then I can turn it off, turn it on.
Easy.
And I think the max ascension level is 20. I have not ever gotten that far.
No, same.
And awesome. I'm not sure. It's in early access, so I'm not even sure what else they're going to add. I don't know if they're going to add the one hero from one that isn't in the game right now. What have you. But it's very, very fun. And
that's great.
It hits all the spots, and new cards, new artifacts, new events. So it's Slay the Spire 1, just slightly graphical uphaul and new cards and new things to play with. It's
new
great.
Content too, and it's super hyped. You're the one who actually got me into Slay the Spire, the first one, and it's great.
You're welcome.
So
well, that's because you're like, oh, we're playing Chaos Zero Nightmare, and I said, what if you had a game that didn't have crease rating? And
that's
RPG
when I stopped listening. No, I'm just kidding. I was like, tell me more. Yep.
So there's no leveling up like Chaos Zero
Right.
Nightmare, but
Right.
still, it has basically all the same. You do a run, you're
It's
leveling up
great.
cards and everything, and it's
Yeah.
every run's different. And you might say, "Oh, this run I want to do this build," but it's not up to you, man. It's up to what you get,
Okay.
and it's
All
just
right. So you
luck
get
of the
so in
draw.
this. So my friends, if you're listening here, it's 2 thumbs up from Will to get this
Oh yeah,
game.
for sure.
I want to get it, and that may be something that we stream.
Oh,
Playing a little
okay.
Slay the Spire 2. I think that would be a lot of fun. That would be really cool. So
I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure you die and I keep living.
I appreciate that. That sounds like every day. No, I'm just kidding. All right. On that note, thank you so much, friends, for listening. And remember, don't forget to save. Thank you so much, friends, for spending part of your day with us at Pixelaged. With so many incredible podcasts out there, it means a lot to both Will and I that you chose to listen, and we hope that our show earns a spot among your favorites. I want to give a special shout out to guitarist Ron Martin. He's an amazing friend and seriously talented musician whose work brings our intro and outros to life. You can explore more of his music at the links in our episode and podcast descriptions, as well as the links on our YouTube page. Thank you so much, and remember, every memory is a save point.